are full of all forms of life. From the shallow lagoons with sea turtles to the deep trenches with dark creatures, the oceans of a planet are full of wonder. While the biodiversity is in grave danger to humanity's actions, I would like to explain this using coral reefs as an example. Often referred to as the rainforests of the ocean, coral reefs are wildlife hotspots with large amounts of biodiversity. The Great Barrier Reef in Oceania is the largest coral reef, full of over 9,000 species, while many are still out there waiting to be discovered. Coral reefs are keystone species, meaning numerous species depend on them for survival. While they may seem like plants due to their lack of movement, corals are in fact made up of thousands of tiny animals called polyps. Each polyp is a sac-like body and a mouth encircled by stinging tentacles. A plethora of marine life such as fish, marine worms, barnacles, crabs, snails, and sea stars prey on these polyps. Other species depend on these species as a source of food too. So, corals support the food webs in marine ecosystems. Larger bodies of coral act as barriers and reduce the power of incoming waves crashing onto the shore. Therefore, these creatures protect coastal areas and the smaller creatures living in them, such as crabs. Other than food, fish can also find shelter in coral reefs against larger predators such as sharks. This encourages marine life to reproduce and raise their young in these coral reefs. Some predators such as eels and octopi hide in corals to catch their prey. However, the corals of the world are under threat. Corals can only survive in temperatures between 23 and 29 degrees Celsius. However, this temperature is easily exceeded through global warming. This causes the corals to die and turn white. While they might look pretty at this stage, these corals will eventually decompose and all of the marine life in these coral reefs will suffer. Corals are also extremely dependent on zooxanthellae, a type of algae that removes waste from corals and uses them for photosynthesis. Water pollution can cause the eventual extinction of these algae, causing coral reefs and all the marine life to go extinct. Overfishing is another problem, where fishers fish in coral reefs knowing that they are biodiversity hotspots and decrease the marine life in these areas. Since each species in the marine ecosystem are dependent on each other, the extinction of one species can cause the entire ecosystem to collapse. For example, while sharks are only responsible for 5 human deaths each year, we kill around 100 million sharks annually, mostly out of fear and for shark fins. When fishers hunt them for the latter, they bring the shark out of the water, violently cut off their dorsal fin, and throw them back into the water. The shark then experiences major blood loss and cannot move, causing it to die. Since sharks are apex predators in many marine ecosystems, the fish population is not controlled if all sharks go extinct like this. The fish then may extinguish all the resources, causing the entire ecosystem to collapse. Plastic pollution is another threat to our oceans. Mistaking them for jellyfish, sea turtles can accidentally consume plastic bags, choke on them, and die. Another threat to these sea turtles is climate change. When a sea turtle lays eggs, the hatchling sex is determined by the temperature of its surroundings. Eggs below 28 degrees Celsius are males, whereas those above this temperature are females. Due to global warming, this temperature is exceeded and majority of the sea turtles born are females. Since asexuality is not as common in sea turtles, both sexes are required for reproduction. Therefore, the excess of female sea turtles can decline the sea turtle population. Oceans are one of the ecosystems that are falling due to our actions. Our rainforests are disappearing from the planet. The habitat loss for timber, mining, and space population. Global warming has caused the ice in the Arctic to melt, giving land animals and polar bears less space to live on. Water pollution has spoiled the once clean water in wetlands such as the wetlands and a biodiversity hotspot. Cities are continuously expanding, shrinking the habitat of various creatures and snakes and forcing them to live in urbanized areas. It seems as if the wildlife of the planet is getting closer and closer to extinction as time passes. However, there is still several organizations such as WWF, Worldwide Fund, The Nature Conservancy and the Work Society for Protection of Animals constantly work towards the conservation of wildlife. For example, SANCOB, or Southern African Foundation for the Conservation of Coastal Birds, aims for the conservation of seabirds along the coast of South Africa, especially the endangered African penguin. Over the last 3 decades, the number of African penguins breeding in South Africa has declined by 73%. However, this organization is committed to grow the population in the coming years. While there are cruel people in the world that have caused our wildlife to suffer, there are also those willing to commit their lives into saving them. The Ocean Conservancy is another organization that aims at reducing plastic waste, which traps the many sea creatures, by advocating for policies. Several bodies organize beach cleanups to prevent animals from accidentally consuming plastic. Governments all around the world are working towards conservation, and all this effort has paid off. In the 19th century, humpback whales were famously hunted for oil, an activity called whaling. By the late 1920s, they had become extremely rare, and by 1950, there were thought to be as little as 450 left. Then, in 1991, the humpback whale recovery plan was released to prevent these species from whaling. The population of humpback whales quickly recovered to 27,000, reclassifying them from endangered to just threatened. There are many ways even the average person can contribute to the conservation of our biodiversity. One should purchase only products with the following labels on them, as it shows that the product was made without harming the environment. A person should also use bicycles instead of cars or bikes, as not only do they release less greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, they are also healthier. Plastic should be also recycled as often as possible. One should also take a cloth bag instead of a plastic bag when going out to get groceries. However, probably the best way an ordinary person can conserve the biodiversity of the world is education. Many animals, such as snakes and spiders, are feared or misunderstood by society when, in reality, they do not pose a large threat to us. Spreading awareness about how these creatures are important to the ecosystem and why one should work towards conserving them can be impactful in the long run. Zoos are a great example to this. Often seen as a facility supporting animal torture, zoos in reality not only support breeding programs but also educate children about these animals, informing the next generation about how fascinating these creatures are and why they should save them. Here in Singapore only, the Mandai Wildlife Reserve educates its guests about why some species are endangered and why one must save them. It has also held various breeding programs that have conserved various species such as the Bali Mena, the sun bear, the Javan gibbon, and many more. This world is full of fascinating fauna, especially in its oceans, that is in danger from our actions. Therefore, we should work towards saving them so that the next generation can witness the beauty of nature.